So in order to actually get that flip roll, you pretty much now either have to have very high endurance, or you have to be comboing Havel's Ring with the Dark Wood Grain Ring. The reason for that is that because Havel's Ring raises your maximum stamina, it also raises your proportionate equip burden to what it actually is. So for example, Havel's Ring I think in this case is bumping my equip burden up to about 75. So I don't need to be quite as much of a stickler for my actual weight as before. I'm actually wearing the Sorcerer's stuff now, because it's lighter, just so I have the ability to flip. But I actually juggled this, and with a little bit more endurance, I think I'll be able to wear one piece of Elite Knight, which has decent poise, if I don't wear gloves and I wear the Sorcerer's Chest and at least the Dust Crown, yeah. So that's not too bad. And there's a few instances where I'll actually want to be able to flip around like that, but beyond that it's just fun. Now we've got a lot of souls. We can talk to Griggs here. I sort of regret just buying out his spells instead of just popping a soul and getting the Bellowing Dragon Crest Ring. I'm going to have to correct that at some point. The Bellowing Dragon Crest Ring is another sorcery booster. It stacks with the Dust Crown, and it has no downside. Today, however, we've got our Baldur Sidesword 5, but we don't have any way to get it higher, and until we do, it's not going to be quite as good as the Drake Sword. In fact, the Baldur Sidesword plus 15 has exactly the same base damage as the Drake Sword. So you have to get it all the way to plus 15 before the base damage is the same. Of course, it has scaling, so if you have decent dexterity, it's going to be much better. It's also just a much better weapon, mainly due to its range and superior moveset. I prefer the stabs to the slashes, and the Drake Sword really doesn't have any stabs other than the jumping stab. It can be annoying in places like the Aqueduct there if you're trying to attack the rat. The only real narrow attack you have is the two-handed overhand. Like this. Otherwise you'd bounce off the walls. With most other straight swords, you have the stab with the R2 poke, which is also the heavy trigger for the 360 players. That just makes it a lot easier. Anyone who's a fan of a spear knows how important thrusting attacks can be. If I already did this. Yeah, and the Dark Wood Grain Ring flip also has the advantage of curiously allowing you to get over or through a few very narrow ledges. They're kind of like windows and things like that. Normally you can't roll through them. Sometimes you can just go through them with a running jump, but the flip can actually sometimes vault you up and over them. So it's kind of interesting in that respect. With these Shield Knights, you'll notice you can actually easily break the poise with a two-handed strike. And speaking of poise, I'm not wearing the Wolf Ring right now, so those arrows are going to instantly stagger me. Normally those would just hit me, do damage, but the poise would shrug it off. So there's the obvious advantage there to the Wolf Ring if you have really light armor. If nothing that you're wearing equips your poise, it's probably a good idea to wear the Wolf Ring. Especially now that there's no longer quite a #1 ring here. The Dark Wood Grain Ring is not as good as it once was, and a lot of people are starting to kind of not favor it anymore. Go for fast rolling instead. Fast rolling is categorically worse than flipping. It's slower, not as useful for invincibility, but you take what you can get, and ring slots are very precious. For this, we're actually going to de-equip it. And the reason why is I wanted to show you the glitch jump that lets you get from the upper undead burg to the lower undead burg without going anywhere. This skip isn't really necessary because I've already gone the long way and opened the shortcut to the lower undead burg, so this is completely pointless. But if you were going into the undead burg and you wanted to whatever reason go into the lower undead burg, you do this. You flip onto this thing, which you're not supposed to be able to do. Then you take a running jump, and you flip as soon as you land, otherwise you die. And now you're in the lower undead burg, right near the Capra Demon. I made that look a hell of a lot easier than it actually is. I think I'd stick that landing maybe 1 in 20 times, so to have done that right away, that's pretty impressive to me as well. But like I said, it's pointless if you go the long way, and I've already opened the shortcut. Just like 10 more seconds of running would have put me right at the door there, so it's kind of a useless gesture. Unfortunately, all that swagger from doing that has made me a bit overconfident, and I'm underestimating the health of these hollow thieves. Get riposted. And then the dogs come. This area is really not to be underestimated. So we'll come back in through the shortcut, because honestly that's a lot easier. And it helps to save at the bonfire near it anyway. And we'll just quickly do the lower undead burg the normal way. This isn't a very large area, but I'm just going to clear it out before I show you my can't fail, will not fail ya Capra Demon strategy. Capra Demon is an intimidating early boss. It's mainly because of those damn dogs. There's just so much going on. Capra Demons are actually not so bad to kill once you have their patterns down. Most of their attacks are actually blockable, except the two-handed ones. So if you kill the dogs and take some time to observe the Capra Demon, he's actually, you'll find, not so bad. But he can be intimidating with all the stuff that's going on, and with the dogs around, you don't have a lot of time to learn him. It's a small arena. It's just not worth it. But I've got a strategy that, if you're willing to take the long route, only requires you grab a couple of things. One is a decent weapon, like the Drake Sword. Speaking of the Drake Sword, if you have a weapon that's long enough, you can actually whack these doors and kill the thieves before the ambush. You can also hit that guy through the door as he's opening it, but I failed to do so at this point. In addition to a decent weapon, it doesn't have to be the Drake Sword, it could be just about anything. You'll also want an okay shield, just for backup purposes. Hovel's Ring is helpful if you don't have high endurance. It's not strictly necessary. Let's take these guys a bit more carefully. I was wondering if I could maybe hit him with magic, but he finally noticed me. Yeah. How does that feel? Again, abuse the invincibility there when you're backstabbing. Things can walk right up to you and start swinging at you. They don't care. When the thief drops something. The Hollow Thieves can drop parts of their outfit, or the Bandit's Knife. This is the best knife in the game, and it's probably the second best backstabbing riposting weapon. It technically has a higher critical modifier than the Rapier, but the Rapier is generally regarded as a better parry and riposte weapon, simply because it does more base damage, and the base damage plus its multiplier ultimately tend to make it a better backstab weapon. The Bandit's Knife is faster, though, has less stamina expenditure, and it causes bleed. Now, if you're wondering, this makes it a really good weapon to buff. If you were to put it at plus 15, do a magic weapon buff on it, remember that it doesn't scale with the weapon, so you'd be getting exactly as much bonus as you would from anything else. Anyway, the last piece of the puzzle, when dealing with the Capra Demon. Had to pause here, go away from the game. Okay, back. The last piece of the puzzle, the stone armor. Yes, we are just going to walk in there, fat as can be, so we only need enough equip burden to actually wear it. We don't care how fast we're actually going to move, because the enemies will come to us. In fact, I didn't even get a good shield, I just got the Grass Crest shield, I think. For the stamina. Two-hand my Drake Sword, and I'm just walking in here like a big, lanky guy. Capra Demon I actually managed to dodge with a fat roll. But as you can see, though he's hitting us, he isn't hitting us that hard, and I was able to stagger him out of a two-handed attack. He did an overhand attack, did damage to me, didn't kill me instantly though. Heavy defenses and poise of the stone armor. And now it's just down to the Capra. He can hit me all he wants, but he's not going to do more damage than I can do. And I can just wait here, zerg him, and hit him over and over and over. Not as hard as it looks. Of course, this is the extremely cheap way to do it, but you really don't actually need any combat at all to get the stone armor. Is it lame? Absolutely. Stuck here at medium roll. This is where I discovered that I could probably take the gloves off and get the roll, but this time I didn't really care that much. I should have, because it does slow your run down a bit, and I like having the fastest possible run. But I also like having armor, so this build can be difficult on me. There's its armor. The Hollow Thief's armor looks cool. It's not great, but it's not bad either. It's pretty much equivalent to most of the other leathers. Now that we've killed the Capra, we're going to go into the depths. Normally I just skip the Capra and the depths, but if you're not using a boss weapon or Twinkling Titanite weapon or Black Knight weapon or something like that, you're going to need to come down here. Even if you're not going the whole way, there is something that is pretty much an essential roadblock here. Dredges can be something else if you're just overconfident with them. They're surprisingly good at poise blocking you. They're surprisingly good at doing damage to you. And they have some of those flailing attacks that can do a ridiculous amount of damage considering that they're basically supposed to be beginning of the game enemies. Those torch guys do fire damage too, so that's just often extreme. And they come in large numbers. Alone, they're usually pretty easy to riposte, but for whatever reason I just have so much trouble with these guys in groups. It's probably the underestimation factor. You just don't expect guys with a bunch of broken swords to be doing any damage to you, but boy can they. For fun, you can see the ledge there that other butcher stands on. Just hanging out there. So I'll swap my catalyst over. I like having it in the hand that doesn't have the shield. And pound him. Now we could jump down there and fight, or just wait for him to path to us. It doesn't seem like in most cases, if an enemy runs past an ally, it doesn't seem to attract the other ally. It might, if the ally is near them when they're attacked, cause them to like turn around and say, hey, what's that sound? And then spot you. But it doesn't seem like they have any sort of aggression chains like an MMO or something. So if you can pull an enemy from far away, and they don't lose interest in you, they'll come to you. I really should not have just cast that in the butcher's face. It's easier to just run around him and backstab. So we'll come down here. Kill the dog. And there's the butcher back there, the other butcher, who is guarding the chest, and the chest has the large ember in it. The large ember is necessary to raise a +5 weapon to a +6, which is necessary to get it to +10, which is in turn necessary for getting lightning weapons as well as +15 weapons. The very large ember you could have already gotten by now. In fact, I would have already gone to get it, but didn't have much point to doing so right now. But you need the large ember, because the very large ember, unfortunately, does not count as both the large and very large ember. So you specifically need the large ember to make a +5 a +6. So normally I would just skip the depths entirely, but what the hell. Alright, now at this point, we've got the large ember, so I decided to just leave. As it so happens, I need to open the sewer shortcut anyway, just so I could more easily get not so much to the depths, but to the female undead merchant. She's one of the more valuable merchants in the game, and often easily overlooked. She sells the moss clumps, I believe in unlimited quantities, which you really want those for Blighttown or just in general. It always sucks to be poisoned or toxin with no recourse. when one moss clump would have saved you completely. She also sells fire and poison arrows. I believe she's the only merchant who does. The fire arrows are fairly useful in some circumstances, and oh crap, I forgot to release Laurentius. Right. Heading back down. Gonna remember him. Laurentius is the pyromancy trainer, so you definitely want to rescue him if you're not a pyromancer, and even if you are, because he'll sell you some useful stuff. And while we're here, I guess there's no point in just leaving. When we can clear the depths in about a minute or two. I'm gonna run and open this door because I'm not absolutely certain it opens both ways. Probably does. It's not listed as locked or doesn't open from this side, but I would hate to be door blocked. Now, as you can see, the targeting system can be a little weird. Locking on is really important with magic spells. You can also use a bow, target the area, and then cast a spell, and it usually casts it the same way, but often you have to do manual lock-ons, and they can really break in strange ways. The advantage of the heavy soul arrows, though, with the lock-ons, is if you lock on any time during the animation, your character will go ahead and conform to that, so you can actually do a snapshot if you manage to recover your lock-on at the last second. We'll jump down here to the giant rats area. I'm not going to go around and pick up the spider shield because I already got one from the Bandit starting set. Not really necessary to have two. In fact, you can get 2 of them per game by doing that. I don't know why you would want to, but you can. He only has about 700 health, so not a big deal. Sewer chamber key opens the other door, and we'll do a well-known but maybe you haven't seen it skip. Normally you would slide down there, fall into the waterfall, into the basilisk area, but if you hold left or hold right, you'll slide along the outer ledge of that hole, and end up right in this chamber area that leads to Blight Town. And this has the shortcut back to the bonfire. You have to open the door from that side, though it won't open any other way. Oop, and oh, a slime. Slimes are a pain to fight with melee weapons. They're small and just kind of dangerous. They don't take much damage, but they're really vulnerable to magic and fire. So, it's not too bad a thing to deal with them that way. There's also rats down here. There's no real point to doing this, I just wanted to see if I could get some humanity or some shards. I'm actually going to, off-camera, do a bit of farming for that. This is Domhnall. You don't have to talk to him to get him to eventually move to Firelink. I think he just does it once this area is cleared, or once you've cleared a certain number of areas. I've actually gotten him to appear up in Firelink without having ever set foot in the depths, so I'm not sure what the trigger is. I know that if you kill the Gaping... Oh, what the hell. I know if you kill the Gaping Dragon and go into Blight Town, I'm pretty sure he'll move at that point, but there's other triggers, and I'm not sure what those are. Once he's at Firelink, he's basically the source for boss armor. It's pretty much his main role. He'll also sell those crystal weapons, but they're not that great. Looks like we've attracted some other friends. I think these are the giant rats, maybe from the Channelers area, I'm not sure. This guy, he just loves getting stuck in there. Don't take chances if you don't have to. And sure enough, he has dropped a humanity if I can get at it. The rats drop humanities. There's a better spot for humanity much later in the game now in the PC version. Much, much better. But until you can get there, this is okay. The slimes drop either large shards or green shards. They are not the best source of this. By far, the better source is the slugs in Blight Town. But since I'm here and I have decent amounts of patience, I don't really care. But the slugs are definitely way better. We're going to light up the bonfire and rest at it, even though I don't want to stay here very long. You want to rest at it at least once, because now in the Prepare to Die edition, it does have a teleport. which can be nice if you want to come back here for whatever reason. It's an okay farming spot in that these slugs or these slimes are right next to the bonfire. The slugs are out in the swamp, you have to run from the bonfire, and that can take a little while. The drop rate is better, though, for the slugs, and there are more of them. But if you prefer the slimes, they're very easy to do. You basically need one combustion, and just run down the hallway so they all drop. Anyway, going back to the female merchant here. She's got the clumps, pine resins, homeward bones, and the fire and poison arrows. All very important, but I'm not going to buy any right now. But you definitely should buy some of those things. We will open the aqueduct shortcut here, then head down to Laurentius. If you're not a pyromancer, Laurentius will give you a pyro hand if you don't have one. I think you can exploit this in New Game Plus if you didn't start as a pyromancer to get one from him every time. Just drop all your pyro hands and I think he'll give you one. He won't if you are a pyromancer though. The main things to buy are going to be combustion, because that's really useful, and fireball, because it's not expensive. I'll also get flash sweat. Flash sweat is somewhat underrated. It's kind of like the same version of it in Demon Souls, and equally underrated. The spell in that one really took out Flame Lurker easily. And I was considering whether to upgrade the Pyromancy Flame. It makes the damage attacks better, but I was concerned about doing it for Power Within later. But then I realized, I think I had heard somewhere that Power Within doesn't scale, plus I can get another Pyro Hand anyway. So, it's not a big deal to go ahead and upgrade this one. It'll probably be useful. You only need to upgrade it a little bit to make them combustion hits one-shot the slimes in the depths, so I just raised it as much as I could. This will probably be the last time for a while I do, because I really need some souls. But it increased the magic adjust by about 131, or from 100 to about 131, so about a 33% increase in the magic adjust. It's not bad. That doesn't necessarily translate to a 33% increase in the damage, but it will still be good. And at this point I realize I can homeward bone back to the depths.